Well, in South Africa, as everywhere else in the world, if you are poor, if you are black, you're already more at risk for every kind of violence and every kind of discrimination. And so that in South Africa at the moment, what we're seeing is a huge number of hate crimes, many of them murders, rapes and murders of butch-presenting black lesbians. And so it's regarded as a lesbian hate crime, but actually, if you look at who gets murdered, they're always black and they're always in townships, but of the lesbian women, it's usually the gender non-conforming ones who are targeted. So it's also an attack on gender expression. In terms of where is safe and where isn't safe, people know for themselves. I mean, I can't say where is safe and where isn't safe. The issues and these things shift too. Sometimes you think you're safe when you're not safe. And often it's people who are known as well. So that's mostly in South Africa, but in most places it's trans women, particularly sex workers, who are getting murdered. That's more the picture as.
I can relate to that because as a feminine or androgynous gay boy, Ringo Alley, Suffolk Market, you know, holding the wall and the bookstores everywhere from the Mission, you know, to 6th Street. Life was very, you know, nice and beautiful for me. But when I became trans, that's when the violence started. And that leads me to the next question for you. Have you experienced any violence or hate in Botswana or other parts of the world?
In Botswana, we don't come across hate crimes. We don't get a lot of that. It's rare for you to experience hate crime. What we do face is, especially if people realize that you are transgender, because the way they put it, they perceive it as you are a gay person, a gay male, a gay female. That's how they see it. And if you try to explain to them that you are a transgender,
they don't understand.
They really don't understand. It becomes so another issue that they have to understand, because right now they are trying to understand how to be, you know, what's the meaning of being gay or lesbian or bisexual. So with this whole transgender, it's another issue that again they become so confusing to them then that they are really finding it so hard to understand. It becomes confusing to them that now there's gay, lesbian, and now there's trans. You know, it becomes so difficult for them to understand. But we try as much as to educate the government and educate the health workers, the social workers, doctors, so that if they do come across people who are identifying as transgender, that they should be able to help that person. Take for example myself, when I visit a private doctor, but I give myself time to visit government facilities to experience what people say they go through when they visit government health facilities, what they go through. And I had an experience of once a nurse, giving me this eye and giving me a bit of attitude and calling the cops on me. And because I talk too much, I know my rights, I know how the curriculum works, I was able to, speak up for myself. And the police came over, they asked me, they look at my identification IDs, they asked me if I'm really this person, and I just asked them, why would I carry somebody else's ID? And why would I say this is mine? You see that this face is mine. It's only that I look different. I had no makeup on. I was just simple, and they still didn't get it. They still didn't understand. And it came a point whereby they told me to go to the police station, and I refused. And I told them my rights. I told them how the system works. And because some of the government working employees, some of them are really not that educated, that when you talk of these big terms, they get so scared, and when you mention names, they get so fragile and start, everything starts changing. So they took me to my house, my mother explained everything, and my mother was so shocked that I told them how it is, and I was let go, everything was okay. So it really inspired me to even make sure that, every time somebody that I consider family, whether gay, lesbian, who comes to the facility, they are well taken care of. Because I do go there to experience, to share knowledge. It's very funny how doctors from outside are willing to ask me to teach them about what's the meaning of being, of transgender, and, educate them a bit, about what it feels like to be trans and how they can able to help the next person. And yet people from our country don't do that. They choose to do something negative just to, to prove a point to the others. They will call people to come and look at you and laugh at you and say names to you, and then if you are well known and you know people and you mention names, everything starts changing, and now you become friends. But I can imagine if somebody doesn't know anything and you become so isolated in the fact that, they especially looking at the fact that a person coming with a very serious issue like HIV/AIDS, how they become so isolated and don't get the help they need, and yet they get discriminated against of how they identify as, and it really helps me to educate myself, to be able to educate another person, to know exactly what's going on, and
Thank you so much, Christinah. And once again,